Folks, Donald Trump just caught another body, and it is another leader of one of the most dangerous gangs that's been terrorizing America. Now, if you didn't know, Donald Trump's been catching bodies for a couple of years now. Now, I did a video on my main channel, okay? They tried to sweep this one under the rug, but I don't care. I did a video called The Many Bodies of Donald Trump, and in this video, I basically exposed all of the people that Donald Trump has had assassinated since he was president. Not just assassinations, but also, you know, situations where people were on death row and he signed the okay to, you know, have them killed, right? There ain't no two ways about it. It's state-sponsored killings, and some of them made a lot of sense, okay? He got Iranian bodies. He got domestic bodies. He's got bodies all over. He got bodies, Hispanic bodies, okay? He is having people killed left, right, and center in what he would say is the name of protecting America. But the latest hit just went down, and Trump actually slid and had this man killed, who is arguably one of the biggest leaders of one of the most fearsome gangs, okay? Because basically what's just happened is he announced that there was a big US strike, and they allegedly have killed the leader of notorious gang Tren de Aragua. So this is what's going down.
Good evening. I'm Jessica Layton at NBC News headquarters in New York. We're coming on the air with breaking news that the U.S. military, along with the Venezuelan government, has killed the alleged leader of the gang Tren de Aragua. That's according to President Trump. We want to show you some newly unclassified video of a home in Venezuela that President Trump just released on social media. Now, the president says this military strike was delivered on the home of Nino Guerrero. That's the alleged leader of the gang that's been a key target of the president's immigration enforcement agenda. Now, his post on Truth Social notes that, quote, this military action was done with the close coordination of our friends in Venezuela, with whom we are working very well. As a result, Tren de Aragua terrorists no longer have safe haven in Venezuela or anywhere else. And under my leadership, we will find these vicious murderers and drug lords anytime, any place, and send them to the depths of hell where they belong. God bless America, President Donald J. Trump.
He's a savage. He said, I'ma send them to the depths of hell where they belong, bro. He the real King Von. And this part, they didn't read this part, but he said, at my direction, the United States Southern Command just delivered a swift and lethal kinetic strike to successfully execute Nino Guerrero, the infamous leader of the Tren de Aragua, one of the most bloodthirsty terror organizations on planet Earth. Some people say it's a gang. He's saying it's a terror organization, but Trump's the real King Von, bro. He is having people killed and tweeting about it immediately afterwards. It's insane. Okay, it's actually insanity. And also, for the record, they put the wrong date on this. That should be 2026. So NBC News, come on, get it together, man. But anyway, okay, just give you a little bit of background on Trump's latest hat. Okay, Tren de Aragua, it's a Venezuelan prison gang that has basically been expanding into a transnational criminal organization and has basically been causing havoc on American cities for years now.
What started as a Venezuelan prison gang is now fast spreading across the United States.
It's an infestation. It's taking hold, not just in Colorado or New York. It's up in Michigan, Florida, Texas, you name it.
They've expanded through tactics of extreme violence and trafficking everything from guns to people. You might already be familiar with them because a video clip of the gang went viral recently. They made national headlines for terrorizing an apartment complex in the state of Colorado. Take a look at this insane security footage showing armed men casually walking around like they own the place. We see them going from door to door, and according to an independent investigation from a Denver law firm, they were demanding protection money, basically extra rent paid directly to them, and they're stabbing residents who refuse to pay up. The reason why I think this footage was so shocking to so many people is because the criminals look like they're going for a stroll without a care in the world. The question on everyone's mind, or at least mine, is how are they operating with this kind of impunity? It suggests that these guys are comfortable and don't have any real fear of repercussion from law enforcement. So
Trump saw these fools running around demanding protection money going door to door. And he said, F that, I'm going to smoke your leader. I'm going to turn your boss into a pack. And the leader of Tren de Aragua is no more. He's no longer. Okay, he's never coming back, and that's that. And so according to some reports, Tren de Aragua actually started kind of around railway workers that were committing crimes before they eventually expanded and kind of became a bigger thing inside Venezuela's prison system.
They started in Venezuela around 2005 as this small group of workers who got jobs at a railway union, but the union never ended up progressing into the construction phase. So instead, they started going around pulling off crimes together, idle hands of the devil's playground and all that. I believe this theory to be the most credible and obvious because their name literally translates to Aragua train. Things really kicked off though when some of the members were thrown into an overcrowded prison. Venezuelan authorities who were in charge of that facility then handed over the keys to the prisoners themselves to run it instead. Through a series of neglect, cowardice, and good old-fashioned corruption, they pushed the responsibility onto the prisoners. A few years later, things really had gotten wildly out of hand because according to Inside Crime, who's been closely monitoring the group, by 2018 the gang had over 2,000 members and was growing fast. Local criminal organizations tried to confront Tren de Aragua, but were killed in the process. A year later, Venezuela's Special Action Forces, they're like elite police officers, got into a firefight with them during a pursuit and killed 5 of the members. But so far, they've failed to really put a dent into their operations. The gang ran the prison themselves through a system called Pranatos, which, I kid you not, roughly translates to natural-born double killer prisoner. You cannot make this shit up. These groups then established a structured system within the prison, which I'm sure had a fun bureaucracy to it, where the top boss was called a Pran, appointed lieutenants to collect the money needed to run the prison, coordinate crimes outside the wire, and charge the inmates a tax to allow them to live. Yes, you heard that right. If that sounds familiar, it's because it's the exact same thing they were doing in Colorado. A former prisoner told the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, "The first time you don't pay, they shoot your wrist. If you don't pay a second time, they shoot your ankle. The third non-payment, the penalty is death."
So that's how these guys are moving. They're basically putting a tax on your life. They're saying, you want to stay alive, you've got to pay us, otherwise we're just going to kill you. And unfortunately for them, Donald Trump just hit him with the Uno reverse card and said, bet, how about a kinetic strike? So it's pretty crazy, and this whole thing was out of control, and you know, Trump is basically saying no more. So by around 2023, okay, Tren de Aragua started appearing more visibly in US cities, including Chicago, where officials linked the group to extortion, violence, and other crimes. And there was a lot of people from Chicago gangs that were notorious, African-American related Chicago gangs that, you know, might have seen me cover on this channel. And they were saying the Venezuelans, the Tren de Aragua, were really getting busy, and they were having to be VDK. They were having to be Venezuelan K, because these gangs were coming in, stepping on their turf and trying to take shit over.
Tren de Aragua probably started coming in a little over 3 years ago. We started seeing some trends and some information that they were entering the United States. And they've pretty much gone to every major city that we have in the U.S. at this time and started to set up their networks. And the level of their violence, especially with extortion and assaults, is a lot higher than some of these other gangs has been as well. A lot of these gangs try to stay under the radar from law enforcement. Tren de Aragua, El Tren, does not seem to be wanting to do that. They don't care that law enforcement knows that they're around. And in fact, the head of Tren de Aragua recently released a green light on police officers to allow its gang members to shoot at police officers. So that's something that would not normally happen.
So it's believed TDA first started appearing in American cities in Chicago in 2023, and then just a year later, they were already linked to the murder of a Florida police officer and a 22-year-old nurse student from Georgia. And that's what sets them apart. They are brazen. They're taking out police officers when other gangs try to lay low. From there, we began seeing the gang's influence crop up in multiple states. It was clear that this wasn't an isolated problem. It was spreading. I should tell you that after the apartment incident in Aurora, Colorado, it got very controversial. The police department and the mayor later put out a statement that this was just an isolated incident. Residents from the building also held a press conference saying that they've never seen Tren de Aragua around and they aren't scared of them.
So they put a green light on the cops, and then what ended up happening is Trump hit him with the Uno reverse card, said it's a green light on you, and it's a green light on your leader. But what's really interesting is kind of, you know, they were trying to say it's an isolated incident, but you got innocent people getting murdered, police officers, nurses, really some of the most heinous and just society damaging crimes that you could possibly imagine. And they're coming over here doing that. So since all of these crazy incidents, the gang has since been accused of expanding all across America and building up a serious reputation for extreme violence.
Terrible attack. A TDA gang member on a moped dragged a 62-year-old woman down a street in Brooklyn. Their MO is that, to snatch your phone or your purse right out of your hand, and then they drain your entire bank account of any funds by using fake transactions on your phone to the United States and South America. Then they send your phone off to Colombia to be resold. I'll tell you some instances of those violent attacks now. A 33-year-old man who made the mistake of working with the gang was abducted alongside his 2 kids in Texas. They put a single bullet into the back of his head, execution style, and then they dumped his body on the side of the road. Once their initial cells were established in the States, they muscled their way into local criminal economies. How? They would send a message to anyone who got in their way. Their favorite method was their trademark move, delivering a rival gang member's dismembered body inside trash bags to the competition's doorstep. Also, 2 NYPD officers were shot by TDA gang members in Queens, New York. One of them only survived because his bulletproof vest stopped the shot. So the way TDA is breaking into these drug markets is by being more violent than the rest. Like how a business needs to somehow differentiate themselves from the competition, that differentiating factor for TDA is that they attempt to be more ruthless than everyone else. They tied up an innocent woman and then threatened to cut off her fingers. They pistol whipped her and stole $75,000 in jewelry from her.
So I'm seeing a lot of these articles describing these guys as migrant gangbangers, all right? Pistol whipping people, they're killing the ops and delivering them to outside their headquarters. It is actually out of control. This is one of the most vicious and violent gangs that America has ever seen. These guys are taking the violence to another level, and their trademark is extreme violence. They're taking things further than even some of the cartels are willing to take it. It is actually terrifying, and it needs to be stopped in the American community. Now, we got this migrant situation going on in the UK. It's very different to the migrant situation going on in the United States, but I'm not saying it, but these article headlines, they're saying migrant gangbangers. This last one, it said the migrants tied up the victim, threatened to cut off her fingers if she didn't give them the pricey gems. It's crazy, okay? So in 2025, multiple Tren de Aragua members were actually sent from the US to prisons in El Salvador. Now, this was very, very controversial because a few innocent people, by the sounds of it, may well have fallen through the cracks and been sent there by mistake. But the reality is they were really trying to put this vicious gang of some of the most evil and violent individuals the entire world has to offer out of America.
According to El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele, the country is receiving 238 suspected Tren de Aragua gang members and also 23 MS-13 gang members who were transported to the country's mega prison.
Footage from El Salvador's government shows a high-security transfer with shackled prisoners stumbling forward as heavily armed officers push them along. The wrists, ankles, and waist are tightly bound, forcing them to shovel in short, restricted steps. On the tarmac, riot police stand shoulder to shoulder, gripping their batons as helicopters hover overhead, scanning for any disturbances. The men are loaded one by one onto special units and military buses. Their heads forced down as officers keep them under strict control. Sirens blare as a convoy of armored vehicles, escorted by special forces, transport them straight to the notorious CSOT mega prison, the same facility where El Salvador's government has locked up tens of thousands of gang members in recent years. Inside the prison walls, the men have their heads shaved in assembly line fashion while guards stand over them barking orders. Cameras capture the moment they're wearing white prison uniforms before being marched, hands behind their backs, into tightly packed holding cells. Back in Washington, D.C., a federal judge ruled that deporting migrants without due process violated long-standing U.S. asylum protections. The White House pushing back, saying they didn't violate a court order. Quote, "The order came too late and illegals were already in international airspace."
See, here's the thing, all right? When this all happened, I think a lot of people, they kind of were like, oh, this is so wrong. They're treating these immigrants so badly. They're just criminalizing immigrants. And that's obviously not good. That's not what we want. But now you got the context, you're finding out this is the most vicious gang that the world has to offer, and these guys are cutting fingers off. They're shooting people in the ankles and making them pay not protection money, but literally, we're going to kill you. If you don't pay us a monthly fee, we're just going to kill you. You're just going to pay us to keep you alive, basically, and we're your life force now. Seeing these guys getting their head shaved and getting bundled in the back of these trucks, if these really are some of the most dangerous criminals the world has to offer, as it seems to have been described by some of the victims, this really, like, you just got to get them out of the country. You just got, nope, not doing that. You're not doing extortion plots. You're not shooting people in the ankles. No, you're not shooting at cops. You're not giving the green light. No, see you later. Goodbye. All right. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a little profile on Nino Guerrero, who is the Tren Aragua leader who was just killed, who was Trump's, latest victim, the latest body that Trump caught. And you're going to understand a little bit more about why Donald Trump would have made a decision to end this man's life with such extreme force, and coming down on him with furious anger. All right, Nino Guerrero, or is it Nino? I'm not good with the with the little no. Anyway, Nino Guerrero, the prison kingpin who took Tren Aragua transnational. There he is, all right? He's fugitive. His location was unknown. This is an old article before he was killed, but now we're finding out that just under a year later from this article, he has been killed. So it says Hector Rusenthord Guerrero Flores, a.k.a. Nino Guerrero. Basically, it says he got his start in the underworld in the Venezuelan state of Aragua in the early 2000s. After several years spent drug trafficking and dealing stolen goods and several run-ins with the authorities, Nino Guerrero was finally captured in 2010 with 3 murder charges to his name. He was sent to the state prison of Tocoram, where he spent 2 years before escaping. After a year on the run, he was recaptured and sent back to Tocoram, which would soon become his kingdom. Nino Guerrero took charge of the Tren Aragua prison gang by recruiting inmates and turning Tocoram into a criminal headquarters and fortified city. The prison had some luxurious features, including a swimming pool, baseball field, disco, restaurants, and a zoo, the profits of which all went to Tren Aragua. Nino Guerrero lived in a 2-story house inside the prison. Imagine being such a hard and tough gangster that they put you in a prison, and rather than serving your time and being rehabilitated or being punished, you turn the whole prison into a revenue-generating gang, and you're in there building a whole 2-story house inside the prison. It's like, Pablo Escobar did a similar thing, but they're still doing that now. It says relatives and partners of inmates also lived in Tocoram. So they got their wives, their girlfriends, their side pieces all in there. Wanted criminals on the lam would know to hide from the authorities there. They're hiding from the cops so they don't go to jail in the jail, and the jail a resort. The jail got a whole petting zoo in there. It's absurd. So Nino Guerrero and his lieutenants were able to come and go from Tocoram as they pleased. Shout out to Insight Crime. It says under his guidance, Tren Aragua ran a number of criminal schemes from behind bars. Then the group began expanding beyond the prison walls. Members released from prison were sent out to form new cells and co-opt smaller criminal groups. The gang spread through Venezuela and beyond, following the flows of Venezuelan migrants fleeing their home countries' economic crises to Colombia, Chile, and Peru, where the new cells had a certain level of autonomy, but ultimately they all answered to and paid dues to Nino Guerrero and the leadership in Tocoram. But this expansion came at a cost. As the group expanded, its reputation grew, and so did the attention it was garnering from authorities around the region. In the space of a decade, Tren Aragua came to be considered one of the most rapidly growing security threats in South America. Faced with increasing pressure to take action against the group and seeking to bolster popularity ahead of his re-election, Nicolas Maduro, now arrested, all right, now damn near in jail, kicking his feet up with 6ix9ine a few months ago, he was launching an offensive against Tren Aragua in Tocoram. On September the 20th, 2023, thousands of police officers and soldiers entered the prison, destroying the prison's amenities and moving inmates to other penitentiaries, but Nino Guerrero was nowhere to be found. To this day, he remains on the run. With only rumors as to his whereabouts, his iron hold on Tren Aragua has lapsed as the group has now decentralized. So there's kind of like, we kind of get the gist of the background from the videos I showed you earlier, but basically what is really scary is that he was the leader, he was on the run, they didn't know where he was, but they're saying his grip on the whole group, it's not really there anymore. The whole group's become decentralized. So arguably Trump killing this guy doesn't necessarily change anything as far as Trendo Rugwa's operations, but it does send a message. It makes it very, very clear that you can't get away with this type of thing on American soil. And at least Donald Trump is willing to just kill you. We've seen it with El Mencho, and we've seen it with other people. So let me know what you thought of that video. If you found that interesting, I will catch you guys in the next video. If I see anything else related to this, I will let you guys know. But for now, I'm out. Peace.